Hey friends, it's Spence. Today is going to be kind of a low-key video. It's going to be minimum effort, but also low-key stressful for me because, well, you'll see. I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books in my physical TBR, and this is more for myself than for anyone else really. I just want to really see all the books that I have, like, at one glance or in one video. And part of the goal here is to determine which books I want to prioritize and which books I want to, leave for later reading. And also, if any of the books here are books that you've loved and you would encourage me to prioritize, I want you guys to let me know down in the comments. So yeah, without further ado, this is the whole of my physical TBR. Starting off with books that I've borrowed. So these aren't books that I own. I borrowed them from my friend Claude's from the channel Book Bosom Claude's. And that's starting off with volumes 3 and 4 of Spy Family. I've loved the first few volumes, so I borrowed the next couple. I didn't specifically ask for these, but she also lent me Haikyuu volumes 1 and 2. She says I'll really love it, and a lot of people say that it's not exactly MLM or a BL manga, but it's close to it. So yeah, I'm excited to get to these. I also borrowed the third book of the Greenbone Saga, which is Jade Legacy, which is a chunker. Read the first 2 books. I've liked both of them. The next set of books is technically my Pride Month TBR. I'm actually currently reading one of them, which is All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown. I'm liking this one so far, but I'll not say what my rating is because I haven't finished it yet. I have The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. It doesn't have queer characters, I don't think. But I do know that Patrick Ness is queer, so this is part of my Pride Month TBR. I have Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brunt. And I think it's about like a niece who learns about how her uncle died of AIDS or something like that. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate. I actually won this in a giveaway, so I'm excited to read this because I've heard good things about this book. I also have here Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I'm excited to read this, even though there kind of have been mixed reviews. I have a feeling that I'll like it. I'm not sure why, but yeah, it's also part of my Pride Month TBR. I also have here David Archuleta's memoir. If you guys know me, you know that I'm a big fan of David Archuleta for like very personal reasons, which I won't get to today. Yeah, this is David Archuleta's memoir, Chords of Strength, a memoir of soul, song, and the power of perseverance. I'm actually not expecting too much from this book because this was written when David Archuleta was like still new to the music industry and he actually wasn't out at the time yet. And then finally for our Pride Month TBR, I have The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. I've also heard mixed things about this, but I'm super curious what I'm gonna think about this one. So that's it for my Pride Month TBR. Let's get to all the rest of the books. I have here Restart by Gordon Corman. He wrote one of my favorite middle grade series ever, which is the Mastermind series, so I'm excited to read more from him. Even though some of his other books I didn't really love, we'll see what I think of this one. I have The London Eye Mystery by Siobhan Dowd. I actually haven't read anything from this author, but I do know that Monster Calls, one of my favorite books of all time, which was written by Patrick Ness, the idea for that story actually came from Siobhan Dowd originally before she passed away. And so I think Siobhan encouraged Patrick to kind of run with the story that she had thought of, and that's how Monster Calls came to be. Next I have Fuzzy Mud by Louis Sachar. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he's the author of Holes, which I haven't read, but I did love his other book, Sideways Stories from Wayside School. I thought that was hilarious. And this I think is a darker middle grade, I'm not sure, but I'm excited to read it. I also have here this massive book, The First Binding by R.R. Virdi. This book has been getting a lot of mixed reviews. This is heavily inspired by The Name of the Wind, and some say that it's so inspired to the point that it's practically plagiarized, but other people are defending it like, no, it's more like a retelling of The Name of the Wind. I'm not sure what you think, but I love The Name of the Wind, and if anyone recommends me a book and says it's similar to The Name of the Wind, I'm automatically sold. So this is The First Binding. I'm excited to see what I think about it, if it lives up to the hype or if it lives up to the criticism. On to more big books. We have here The Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. This is the last book in the Inheritance cycle. I have a love-hate relationship with this series because the parts that I enjoyed, I'm so invested in, and the parts that I hate, I just absolutely hate. So I'm honestly surprised that I've gotten this far, but I'm not the most excited to continue this because this is so big. This is such a big book, but I just want to know what happens. I don't want to read just a summary of what happens. I'm actually curious how it all plays out. So yeah, I still have this on my physical TV. I'm not unhauling it unless I've already read it. I'm pretty sure I will unhaul the entire series though once I'm done with this because I just don't love it that much, but I'm invested enough to keep reading. Next we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This was popular last year or 2 years ago, I don't remember, but this was popular and also garnered a lot of mixed reviews. But from what I've heard of the people who have read this book, I have a feeling I'm gonna really like this because I've heard it's like a more intimate kind of fantasy, and I don't know, I just have a feeling that I like this, so we'll see if it lives up to the hype. Then I also have here Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. I've read Six of Crows, and surprisingly, I actually thought that Six of Crows was just okay. I love the characters. I like them enough to read this book. So honestly, I feel like I'm gonna unhaul Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom after I read this one, unless something just like dramatic happens that I would love it more than I do right now. Okay, so for the next set, we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a sci-fi, I believe. I believe it takes place in Mars. There's like a Hunger Games sort of story going on. Do people live like underground in Mars? I might be totally wrong about this, but I've heard it's really good and people have been comparing it to the Hunger Games, which while I don't like love, I do like and I do respect. So I'm excited to read this one at some point. Next I have here Dragon Rider by Cornelia Funke. I love the Ink Heart series or the Ink World trilogy, and I'm excited to read more from Cornelia Funke. I believe this is just my first book outside of Ink Heart. I don't think I've read anything from Cornelia Funke beyond the Ink World trilogy. So I'm excited to read more of her work. Next I have here The Polar Bear Explorers Club by Alex Bell. I believe this is a pretty popular middle grade book. I'm not sure how much I like this, honestly, but I am curious enough to read it, so it's not getting unhauled anytime soon. And then next, The Ranger's Apprentice, or Ranger's Apprentice is, I believe, the name of the series, and then the book is The Ruins of Garland. This is also kind of a mixed reviewed fantasy series, but I don't know, I'm just kind of in the mood. Well, I guess when I bought some of these books, I was in the mood for like younger fantasy, because I do get tired of adult fantasy every now and then, actually pretty often. But yeah, I'm curious what I think about this one. And then next I have the volume 7 of Trece, which is Shadow Witness. I believe this is the latest volume that they have of the Trece comics. I think there is like a spin-off series, but like for the main series, I think this is the latest volume that they put out. So I don't know, I do love Trece, but I don't know if I love it enough to keep it. So we'll see if I unhaul it. I'm not sure, but I am very curious to finish this one soon. And then next, I actually have this autographed copy of The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. I've had my eye on this series for such a long time. I believe even like when I was still in high school, but I haven't read it, but I'm super curious. I've heard that it's kind of not that impressive, especially with all the middle grade fantasy that's out there. But I don't know, the covers always intrigue me. It looks so good, and I'm interested to see what I think. I have here the first book of The Missing, which is Found by Margaret Peterson Haddix. Margaret Peterson Haddix is a pretty popular middle grade author. My favorite middle grade series was from Gordon Corman, which is Masterminds, which I mentioned before, and I've heard that this is a better series that's similar to that. I'm not sure if I'll agree, but we'll see if I like this one. I've read a couple books from Margaret Peterson Haddix before, and while I did like the first book that I read, I didn't like the second one as much. So I'm gonna see what I think of this, if I like it or not. Also have here Mockingjay, which is the third book in the Hunger Games series. I haven't read this book yet. I read the first 2 books, but I'm reading it as part of the Hunger Games readathon that Pam from Pam's Shenanigans and Pam from This Book Belongs to Pam, they're hosting one right now in preparation for the upcoming Battle of Songbirds and Snakes. I do love the movies, which is why I decided to read the books. And while I do like the books, I more so respect them than I'm not like super like obsessed with them or anything. So I do think that after I finish Mockingjay, I'm gonna unhaul the trilogy, because I don't know, I just don't need it taking that much space. The next 2 books here I'm super excited for, so maybe I should prioritize these, but it's A Vanishing of Griffins and Thunder of Monsters by S.A. Patrick. This is books 2 and 3 of the A Song of, not Ice and Fire, but like a song of, it's a song of something, a song of magic and, oh, Songs of Magic. It's right here. The Songs of Magic trilogy. The first book being Darkness of Dragons, which I absolutely loved. It was one of the best middle grade books I've ever read, so I'm excited to get to these. We have a bunch of, I believe these are all nonfiction. No, some of them are. Okay, let's do the nonfictions first. I have I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai. I'm excited to read this because Malala is such an inspiration to a lot of women and girls everywhere, especially when it comes to how she fought for the education of women. She was almost killed by the Taliban. I'm super excited to read this because I love a good memoir. So, along the lines of that, I also am excited to read Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. A lot of people have said that they love the movie more, but I have a feeling that's because the movies are generally more dramatized, so I want to read like the more rounded in reality story. I also have here Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. I know very little about this book other than that it's well beloved and well respected. Pretty sure it's about like the broken justice system in America and how it doesn't favor people of color. That's pretty much all I know about this book. I also have here Dunkirk by Joshua Levine. I actually haven't seen the movie Dunkirk, but I love movies. I don't know if you guys knew that about me, but I love movies, and I particularly love watching like award-winning movies, like Oscar-nominated films and that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure Dunkirk was nominated for something. Or I might be thinking of 1917, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was nominated for something. But either way, I've heard it's a good movie, and I want to watch the movie after I read the book. Because, you know, we love reading the source material before we get into the dramatized version of things. Except for I didn't do that in Hidden Figures. The next book, I didn't realize I had this. This is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I think this was recommended to me by a friend, but I don't know what it's about. It looks like it's about war. But that's all I know about it. Oh, this is one I'm excited to read. This is Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. I'm excited to read this one because I consider myself very much an introvert, and I want to hear what Susan Cain has to say about that, because you know, we live in a world where if you're an extrovert, you're put more at an advantage, usually because you know you're more visible to business leaders and that sort of thing. So I want to see what she has to say. Okay, the next couple books I am super excited to get to, and it's A Hero for Wanda and The Battle for Wanda. This is books 2 and 3 of the Wanda series, the first being The Search for Wanda. I absolutely love that book. It reminded me so much of Treasure Planet, like that old animated Disney movie, and I'm excited to finish it, so maybe I should prioritize these two. This is by Tony Terlizzi, who is actually a co-author of the Spiderwick Chronicles, which I also love. Next we have here Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness, Meditation, and Everyday Life by John Kabat-Zinn. But the reason I picked this up is because I've seen that John Kabat-Zinn, like the author of the book, he has a master class for meditation, I believe. And I don't know, I kind of trust the people doing the master class courses, so I'm excited to get to this. And also along those lines, from a master class teacher as well, Chris Voss, I picked up Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. I'm excited to get to this one. I loved Chris Voss's masterclass. This one I have watched, so I'm excited to see what else he has to say in this book. Although I have a feeling it's just going to repeat a lot of the principles that he taught in that masterclass. Okay, these books are kind of dusty. I need to clean my shelves. Are you seeing that? Oh my gosh. I need to clean my shelves. Okay, maybe that was the other reason I'm supposed to be doing this, because I need to clean my shelves. Yikes. The next book that I have on my TBR is the first book of the Malazan series, which is by Steven Erikson, and it's called The Gardens of the Moon. I've heard that this is a difficult book to read because the prose is like super complicated, but I'm actually excited because, I don't know, I love a good fantasy challenge, I guess. Next one I have the movie tie-in edition of Room. Okay, I have mixed feelings about this story. Okay, I think it's an important story and it's a good story at that, but it was also very disturbing. Like, I watched the movie and I was so disturbed, but I've heard that in some ways the book is more palatable because it's from the perspective of the kid. I don't know. I'm scared to read this, but I don't know. I've heard good things, so let's see what I think about this. Next up, I have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I've been meaning to get to Robin Hobb for the longest time. Yeah, I've heard that this book is just, fantasy for depressed people. So, I mean, I'm one of those people, so maybe I'll like this one. I've heard the main character is a little bit insufferable, but like, I'm also insufferable, so maybe this would be a good read for me. This next one is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, and I'm actually excited to read this because I've heard good things. I mean, it's been a minute since I've watched the movies. I don't know, I feel like this is like a sci-fi classic, and so I want to read it. The only thing is, I bought this at a second-hand bookstore, and it was fun because I didn't realize it at the time, but when I flipped through it once I got home, or I guess a few days after, I noticed that a lot of words were, I don't know if you're seeing this, but I can't move closer because I'm at the edge of my bed, but a lot of words have been Sharpied out, like they were markered out, and I realized that those were curse words, and there were so many words that were like markered out like that, or blacked out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this probably came from like a Christian household, or like a household where I guess the parents didn't want their kids exposed to swear words or something. And I just thought that was super funny. But yeah, I'm excited to read this one. Ooh, I'm excited to read this one. This is by Frederick Bachman, and this is Britt Marie Was Here. I loved A Man Called Ova, one of my favorite books of, if not last year, then the year before. I'm especially excited to read this because if this is anything like A Man Called Ova, this is gonna make me feel for the main character, Britt Marie. She's probably like a grumpy old lady or something. I feel like I kind of need to read this because my grandmother passed away recently, and I don't know, I feel like this would be kind of a healing read, so I should probably prioritize this. Next up, we have Gone by Michael Grant. Now this one I'm so excited to read. I know this has a lot of mixed reviews, but the whole premise is kind of giving me Maze Runner, which I know also has a lot of mixed reviews, but I loved it. I have a feeling I'm going to like this too, because I have a feeling it's going to give me that, dystopian thriller kick that I've been wanting for so long and haven't quite gotten yet, again, since reading the Maze Runner series, so I'm excited for this one. The next one here is a book that I want from a giveaway. This Game of Strength and Storm by Rachel Menard. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not the biggest fan of the cover, both like art-wise and quality-wise, but it does have the JLG gold standard thingy on there. And I'm not really sure what that means, but I do know that this award was also given to Marikit and the Ocean of Stars, which I absolutely love. So I don't think I'll dislike this, is what I'm gonna say. So next one I'm super excited, but I kind of want to buddy read this with my friend Claus, which Claus, if you're watching, let's buddy read this because I know you just bought your copy. It is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Bremen, and I've heard that this is basically fantasy for Jane Austen fans, and I'm not gonna lie, I read Pride and Prejudice before, and I didn't really enjoy it, but I did love the movie, so I don't know, I have a feeling I'm gonna like this. Also, I've heard that this is very appealing to people who are into like anthropology and stuff, and I love my anthropology classes in college, so I might like this one. Next up, we have Sourdough, or, oh, this is a long title, Sourdough or Lois and Her Adventures in the Underground Market by Robin Sloan. I've heard this is a sort of slow and comforting read. I'm not actually sure what the genre is, maybe like contemporary or lit fic, but I think I'm gonna wait until I'm sufficiently depressed to need a comfort read like this. So I'm probably not gonna read that anytime soon, unless something tragic happens to me, which would be sad. Next up I have here Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. Anyway, this is like the movie tie-in edition. I have a lot of mixed feelings about the movie, but I was so intrigued. I was intrigued enough to pick this up, and I have a feeling that I'm not gonna dislike it. I have a feeling I'm gonna like it, or probably have like mixed feelings too, but yeah, I want to see what I feel about this. And if I do like this, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unhaul this and get like the more traditional copy, because I don't know, sometimes movie tie-in covers work for me, but other times it just, I don't know, it feels weird to have a movie poster on the cover. I believe I also won this in a giveaway, I'm not sure. I think I did, because I wouldn't really buy this if I didn't win this. Anyway, this is Invisible Ghosts by Robin Schneider. believe this is a contemporary. I think this is one of those books that I am intentionally not gonna jump into it knowing anything. Or what's a better way of putting that? I'm gonna go into it not knowing anything. There you go. I have a feeling it's gonna be like an emotional kind of contemporary, so I'm always down for that. So I also think this is gonna be one of those books that I'm gonna wait until I'm sufficiently depressed to read this. I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those books that you have to be in a certain mood for. Next up, we have here Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. I read Ruta Sepetys' other book, Salt to the Sea, which I loved. So I'm excited to read another one from her. And the last one from this stack is Still Alice by Lisa Genova. I heard this is a very emotional read, but I have a feeling this is like one of those books kind of similar to Room, where I have to be mentally prepared to read this because I feel like this is going to be hard-hitting in a way that I have to be mentally prepared for. I believe this is a book about a person with Alzheimer's, actually, so let's see how I feel about it. Okay, next we have kind of a smaller stack. First one is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Imide. I've heard very, very mixed reviews about this one, but I got it for cheap from a friend, and so I'm excited to see what I think of it. This is a book I'm actually super excited to read. I've heard it's really good, and it's The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. And this is, I believe, African-inspired adult fantasy, and I've heard it's really fast-paced, and I'm always down for that. I've heard it has a lot of like good action scenes. So, and then next I have here a duology. I believe it's sci-fi and young adult, and that is Want and Ruse. Again, I've heard super mixed reviews about this one, but look at the covers. It looks so good. It has mixed reviews, but one of my friends whose bookish opinions or reviews I always trust, she really loves this duology, so I'm gonna see how I feel about it. Okay, we have a bigger stack and dusty as well. The first book that we have here is After the Shot Drops by Randiribai. Randiribai is the author of one of my favorite books of all time, Patron Saints of Nothing. I'm excited to read this other book. I believe Randiribai only has 3 books out currently, and this is one of those, so I'm excited to read this one. I have an arc of The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This was given to me by a friend, but yeah, I'm excited to read this. I actually don't know much about it. Okay, so I believe it's like a Kuwait-inspired fantasy because the author is American Kuwaiti. So yeah, I'm excited to read this one. I don't really want to know much before going in because I feel like it's going to surprise me. Next up, we have these 4 books. The Darkest Minds. I believe this is a trilogy, and then this is like a collection of like the shorter stories or like the novellas. So we have here Darkest Minds, Never Fade, In the Afterlight, Through the Dark. I've been told that the trilogy's titles read as a sentence, so The Darkest Minds, Never Fade, In the Afterlight, and then the novellas titles, they also complete a sentence, which is In Time, Sparks Rise, Beyond the Night. So I'm excited to read these. I watched the movie adaptation of The Darkest Minds, and it wasn't the best, but when I watched it, I was like, I have a feeling that their source material is good. It just wasn't adapted as impressively as it could have. So that's why I bought the set, which is probably a mistake because I should probably just like did like a taste test of the first one. But I mean, I got it on sale, so if I don't like the first one, I'll just unhaul it. Next one, we have The Passion of Dosa by Julie Berry. Julie Berry is the author of one of my favorite books as well, which is Lovely War. I believe this is also historical fiction. I don't know anything else about it, but I'm excited to read it. Next, also by Alexandra Bracken, we have The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding. I've heard this is a really good middle grade book. It's horror, I think, and so this could be part of like an October or November TBR, I think. Next up, we have a bunch of fantasies. We have This Vicious Grace by Emily Thide. I don't know how to say that, but I've heard this is like a kind of cozy fantasy. I'm excited to read it. I want this in a giveaway. Next, we have When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead. This is a middle grade, and Erin Entrada Kelly, one of my favorite middle grade authors, she recommended this book, and I think I might like it. I've heard that if you like Kate DiCamillo, which I do, you're gonna love Rebecca Stead, so let's see what this is about. The last one in the stack I have here, Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. I'm excited to read this because I've heard this is really good, like a thrilling YA fantasy, and I got it for cheap. It's a remainder copy, so there you go, Fireborn. And I know that there are new covers, and this version of the cover isn't getting like the same for the rest of the books, but I love this cover so much. I actually think this is the superior cover, especially because this is a dragon and then there's like 2 people in it, like silhouetted on the dragon's wings. Like, isn't that cool? I think I have a problem because there's so many books. Next tag, let's start off with, oh, this is still sealed. I haven't unwrapped it. I have here The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I'm actually excited to read this. It's adult fantasy as well. Again, mixed reviews on this one, but I have a feeling I'll like it. And then I have here 2 books by Meiko Yuto. The Year We Became Invincible, which is a novella, and Chloe and the Kaishao Boys. I've heard so many good things about this one. And I got both of these at a signing event recently, so I'm excited to read these. Next up, I'm excited to read this one. This is The Deep by Rivers Solomon, but I think this is like a collaborative thing. Maybe it's like a collection of short stories. I'm actually not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's about like African inspired and it's mermaids. I mean, how fitting is it, because Little Mermaid was just released and Halle Bailey did an amazing job at portraying Ariel, but I think this is going to be more historical fantasy. And I think the premise of this story, or short stories, I'm not actually sure, but like the premise of this is it's about people who were enslaved before and who were thrown overboard, and I guess the kind of the fantastical element inserted into the history of that is they turn into mermaids, and maybe they're looking for revenge or something. But yeah, I'm excited to read this one. I also have here The Night Diary by Veera Hiranandani, and I'm excited to this. Maybe this is Indian inspired. Oh, it's about Pakistan and India. Ooh, that's gonna be cool. This is middle grade, I believe. I don't know much about it, but it seems super interesting. And I've been wanting to read more books from parts of the world where I'm not like super aware of them. India and Pakistan, I don't think I've read a lot of books from that area, so this is gonna be good. The next one is The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. I believe I also won this at a giveaway, but it was like the kind of giveaway where you get to pick which book you want. I think the reason I chose this book is because I think it has to do with religious trauma. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I'm like, ooh, I might be able to relate to that, so I picked this one, The Serpent King. Next we have The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Steen. I've heard this book is kind of pretentious and kind of only appeals to the general public because of the dog aspect of it, but I don't know. For some reason, when some people say, oh, this book is kind of pretentious, I'm more drawn to it because, I don't know, I love books that are thoughtful, and even though I know that those thoughtful books, those thought-provoking books, are usually a hit or miss for me, I'm kind of willing to take that risk. When someone says, oh, this is kind of pretentious, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. Because a lot of people say that about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and I know that Paulo Coelho is like one of those popular quote-unquote pretentious authors, but I love The Alchemist, so let's see what I think about this. We have The Martian by Andy Weir. Not gonna lie to you, I was bored out of my mind watching The Martian, but I've heard the book's really good. I've heard the book's really funny. But I also heard that the movie is super faithful to the book. So does that mean I'm not gonna like the book as much? I don't know. Next up I have Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Again, one of those books that are labeled super pretentious, but I don't know. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, I was so intrigued by the kind of conversation that it sparked. I feel like this is going to be a great book for me to read when I want something like thought-provoking. So now we have more books that I won in a giveaway, and this is the Young Elise trilogy by Marie Lu. So I have the Young Elites, Rose Society, Midnight Star. So I started reading this a long time ago. I never continued it, but I've heard that's really good and that it really hurts. And I love something that hurts me. Oh my gosh, I forgot I had this. But I also have here Lion by Saru Brierly. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've heard it's really good. So I don't know if I should watch the movie first or read the book first. Tough decision. I think I'll read it first. I heard this is really moving. I'm so excited. This is definitely going to go into the priority pile. Next I have here Graceling by Kristen Cashore. I've heard this is actually sort of dated. I believe this is like 2010's YA fantasy and doesn't quite hold up now, but I don't know. I'm super curious about it. I mean, I bought it, so I should have been... I was curious at some point about it, definitely, but I think this is not going to be a priority. I'm going to wait until I'm looking for something more low-key, I guess. Farther back into my shelf we go, the dustier it gets. I need to do a deep clean. But anyway, we have here The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Honestly, I love the movie. Iconic. A cult classic. But honestly, when I bought this book, like once it arrived, I was like, I'm not drawn to this book at all for some reason. So yeah, this is one of those books that I want to read at some point, just not soon. Next here I have Youth by J.M. Coetzee. I don't know how to pronounce that. But actually I think I'm gonna unhaul this just because I didn't buy this. It just came with an order that I made, like a book order. Just kind of came in for free. But I don't know, if you guys have read this and you recommend it, I'll keep it and read it at some point. But yeah, I think I'm gonna unhaul this actually. Next up we have a book set, and that is for the Septimus Heap series. I know, I bought the entire set. I just heard that it's a good series, and yeah, I bought the entire set. It was on sale, so there's Magic, Flight, Physic, Quest, Siren, Dark, Fire. I should probably prioritize this so that if I don't like the first book, I'll just unhaul the rest. I mean, unhaul the entire thing. But I don't know, I've heard good things, and I kind of want to finish this even though I don't like the first one. I don't know. I'm just super curious because I love a good long series. And it's middle grade, I believe. If not middle grade, then young adult, so it's not going to be too hard to read. Oh, we're almost done. This is the last series. Finally. But this is the Chaos Walking series by Patrick Ness. The Knife of Never Letting Go, The Ask and the Answer, and Monsters of Men. Okay, so those are all the books in my physical TBR. Wow. Number one, I need to do a deep clean. Number two, I need to prioritize my physical TBR so that I can start unhauling more books because I need the shelf space, definitely. But right now, I want to figure out which books I want to prioritize, so let's figure that out right now. Oh, I'm already stressed. Where do I even start?
Magic, first of the Septimus Heap series, priority pile. Still Alice, later. Between Shades of Grey, later. Invisible Ghosts, later. Called Atlas, later.
1 hour later.
Okay, so let me show you all the books in my priority pile. We have Assassin's Apprentice, Ace of Spades, Want, Rage of Dragons, Brit Marie was here, Gone, Natural History of Dragons, Magic, The Knife of Never Letting Go, Mockingjay, A Vanishing of Griffins, Thunder of Monsters, I Am Malala, Hero for Wanda, The Battle for Wanda, Stardust Thief, This Vicious Grace, Fireborn, Chloe and the Kaishao Boys, Life of Pi, Wherever You Go There You Are, The Iron Trial, The Gunkel, Fuzzy Mud, Athene, and Inheritance, Athiki. Invisible Life and Crooked Kingdom, Shadow Witness, Dragon Rider, Red Rising, The Rest of Us Just Live Here, Winter's Orbit, Tells of Wolves I'm Home, David Archuleta and Jade Legacy, Q and Spy Family, and The First Minding. So from my priority pile, which ones should I prioritize? I want you guys to determine what's going to be included in my next reads so I can prioritize them because I trust your guys' opinion. Anyway, that was it for the physical TBR. Those are all of the books that I own that I have not read. I counted all of these and I believe I have 89. My goal by the end of the year is to reduce that to maybe even just like 70. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to let me know which books I should prioritize in the comments. What I'm gonna do now is gonna deep clean that shelf. Fortunately, there's only all of this is only in one shelf actually, and reorganize this just so I can see the more prioritized books in front. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.